original content, stuff that moves the needle above and beyond regurgitating what's already out there. Anything that you can provide your own context, your personal experience, that is what AI is hungry for.
You're listening to the Affiliate Marketing Podcast, powered by Affiverse, ultimate destination for affiliate program news, insights, growth opportunities, partnerships, and affiliate program strategy. Welcome to the Affiliate Marketing Podcast with me, your host, Leanne Johnston. And this week I have Ewan Pincer, the CEO of Red Visible, to talk about a really big subject that everybody is freaking out about, but also doesn't need to. And that's why we've got Ewan on the mic this week, talking all about AI engine optimization, or AEO as people are calling it, and a whole bunch of other stuff around search, content, AI, and everything that everybody is panicking about right now. But fear not, because we have Ewan here, and he is going to help us navigate this whole new phase of the internet that we are working in. So Ewan, thank you so much for being on the podcast with me this week.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm really looking forward to this. Some great topics to discuss.
Now, tell us a little bit, because I always get my guests to introduce themselves to my lovely audience. If you haven't ever heard of and or linked with Ewan on LinkedIn, just give everybody a little bit of a backstory of who you are, how you got into the performance marketing industry, and what you actually do, because I think that's a good place to start.
Absolutely. No, I think my journey is very interesting and probably evocative of kind of the evolution that many folks are going through right now. We experienced all the changes as a punch right in the face, which forces you to adapt very quickly. But traditionally, I come at it from the media side. So I was a publisher, right? So we spent the last decade really starting blogs from scratch. Originally, I did all the writing myself, a kind of lifestyle entrepreneur. Performance marketing was my saving grace. Started with the Amazon Associates program, like so many publishers or creators do, and then tumbled down the rabbit hole of all the networks and all of that, and built a portfolio of over 100 different websites and all sorts of little verticals. And we've operated as a kind of boutique little media holdco, like a mini Dotdash Meredith, like very small, going after key little verticals, but really specialized in identifying creative talent, platforming them, doing kind of research into market gaps, and where did we need to create context and content to fill a gap usually in the search environment that's where I come from, is that's SEO world. But we also do video, we do a lot of other things. And then that was going really well until about 2.5 years ago, when there was this thing called the helpful content update, which turned out wasn't so helpful for most publishers and really forced us to reconcile our business model very quickly. We started to see at that time Reddit. This is before the AEO, GEO really came on strong. We saw Reddit going on. I always say it's like a canary in the coal mine. That was the first thing we saw. And we started to see a lot of our editorial rankings getting supplanted by Reddit. And what do we do about that? And that kind of led to Red Visible very organically. I tried many different things. I tried to do performance marketing directly in Reddit, which doesn't work very well. They don't like affiliate links. So again, pivoted again, and I really settled into this reputation management, PR, visibility kind of use case as being the highest and best use case for Reddit, helping e-commerce brands, other direct consumers, B2B brands manage their reputation and how they were surfacing, which still has an SEO objective to that. These Reddit threads often show up very prominently in old school organic. And if there's something negative that's being said about a brand, or just something that's not up to date, it can be devastating to their entire paid funnel, including performance marketing, including paid. Because people sanity check, is this brand legit? And Reddit is the thing that shows up to sanity check that. So we developed that. That took off very quickly. This was about 1.5 years ago. We were featured at MarTech Record. We were on a panel, and that kind of was a great opportunity for us to have a moment, added clients very quickly. And then really up until 8 months ago, we were doing that. But then I started to see the AI search really coming on strong. And we noticed something very interesting. Our dormant media portfolio started to get citations. We started to see that we were influencing purchasing decisions just like we used to, but we weren't necessarily getting clicks. Our clicks were not necessarily increasing, but we were increasing brand visibility. And so I said, okay, this deserves a model change as well. And so we said, look, if we're providing all this value, ChatGPT isn't paying us any royalties. They took all of our content. We have to go out there and go direct to the brands and help them and work directly to both get paid and also provide value to them. And so Scale Visible was this next evolution. It's the umbrella company right now where we do the Reddit marketing. We do There's other third-party context, this owned media. We're putting our portfolio to use. We're also having partnerships with other down-their-luck publishers and trying to give them an economic model and legs to stand on. And then we also have like the third leg is YouTube. And I'm a big believer in YouTube as a strategy to fill in the context gap in AI. And so really that's our North Star now is AI visibility, AI search, how are brands being positioned and how can we help them increase their visibility, sentiment, representation in the user journeys that they care about.
Okay, so number one, super happy that I got you on this podcast because it's all the war wounds that we're going to dig into and all the pivots that you've had to make and why you've had to make them. Because the purpose that we have here at Affiverse is to help people understand not just why things are happening, but the context of what that means for them. So obviously a lot is changing in search, and for publishers, it means a certain thing. But for the affiliate program managers that are working advertise or brand side, they need to be understanding how to navigate this too. So you spoke about a lot in the beginning, and I want you to break it down a little bit. If we define what does the search landscape look like now, you spoke about GEO, AEO, and traditional search, okay? How important is it for affiliate managers to be navigating all of those channels in their affiliate programs right now with partners that they can work with in each of those segments? Do you want to call it, I don't know, channels?
It's incredibly important. I think it's tricky. It's fragmented. And I think fragmentation creates risk and it creates a lot of, folks are panicking, like you said, for some good reasons. I'm not going to say like, oh, just continue on business as usual, hold the course, don't adjust. No, this is a period for adjustment for sure. But there's also a huge opportunity as well to be at the leading edge, to start describing the work that you're doing in the terms of AEO, AI impact, right? Because yes, search still is a monolith. A traditional search is still where all the clicks are happening, but we're seeing this growing trend towards AI.
But also remember, depends on your sector that you're working in. So for example, probably a little bit more important for e-commerce brands that are doing quick, short seasonal sales versus maybe a travel brand that's selling a $10,000 holiday to the Maldives. You got to take this in context. And this is why I wanted you on the podcast, because even here in the UK, I'm hearing a lot of people panic about this, swap their strategies because they want to be the first adopter on a wave of something that's new, but forgetting that half of their audience are my age. I'm pushing in my 50s now. I use the internet differently to how my 13-year-old son does. So it's very important to take all of what we're talking about today and really contextualize it into your own business and understand what makes sense. So we've got these three pillars of fragmented search that consumers are coming onto these platforms, whether it's TikTok, Reddit, YouTube, Perplexity, whatever it is that you're using. What is the approach that we should be taking to sort of keyword research that we want to maybe double down on? Content types that we maybe want to start investing in to make the most of this in the next 12 months? Because like we're living in short term now. It's like today, gone tomorrow. What's the 12-month roadmap that you're recommending to people? And I'm talking mainly for affiliate managers here because we're talking about strategy that they should be looking at, but not necessarily like killing themselves to change their whole strategy, basically.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think the first thing I would start with is trying to understand the differences between the traditional search and AEO, GEO. What is it, and to your point, how does it vary in your specific landscape? What are those very specific user journeys? Because of that fragmentation, you could take a traditional landscape, I don't know, like best CRM tools or something in Google, and you put that into Perplexity, put that into ChatGPT, and you get a very different experience sometimes. There's actually a very low correlation in general between what ranks in Google and what shows up in ChatGPT. It's like I think it's 15 maybe % overlap in terms of the citations and the sources. The top 10 rankings in Google, maybe there are also citations, maybe, but maybe not. And even then, even if they're just a citation, it's fundamentally a different exercise. It's consensus building as opposed to the first edition of Google, the studies that it was showed like 60% of the clicks, right, go to that. Now it's a little bit different because that number one result in Google is probably a citation in ChatGPT, but it's one of 20, 30 sources that they put into their little blender. So it's a little bit more difficult to navigate, but start understanding those journeys. And I think one term just to key in on a little bit is keywords. That's to SEO. That was important. Now I think we're looking at this thing called query fan out or queries. And that's like the tree to which the root is connected, right? So it's like best running shoes or running shoes, whatever. And then there's all these different, what are the best running shoes? And because really what's changed with AI search, where we're headed towards this very personalized, I think how maybe Gen Z or even so the younger generations are searching now is less kind of keyword oriented. Whereas I grew up, where you probably as well, where like we knew how to search Google. That was like almost like a little discrete skill. We took it for granted. That was a thing. So how does that then change in these AI landscapes? And what do those buckets look like? All the different prompts, as they're calling them. Prompts are similar to keywords, but the difference is that you kind of bucket them more into the query fans. So understanding how you look there. And then I think at the very basic level, what I've seen a lot of like affiliate managers start to do and do well is start to describe the value that they're creating in AI terms. The work that's been done, the affiliate motion that's been done for the last decade or whatever, is providing AI value. So at the very least, find a way to describe that value, whether it's using one of these AI visibility platforms or just manually checking how is that content, that placement you landed with that publisher, how is that impacting these other environments, and then describing some of your value in that context. And if that's free money, I think there's this intermediate term of like, yes, the clicks are maybe fragmented and it's harder to maybe not going up into the right like they used to, but you are providing all this AI context. There's an opportunity, the near term, an arbitrage basically of use the affiliate motion to get very cheap AI placements for brands. Really what you're doing, and I think we're going to move to a place in a couple of years where that is more defined, is what is the value of an AI placement, a citation. There might even be market economics around that citation. I don't know what it'll look like, but that I think there's a short-term opportunity to at least describe the value. So I kind of start there. And I think to your point about like people getting on the buzzword bandwagon, there is some work to be done to really think about where does performance marketing play. I don't think it's like just slapping AI on the logo isn't going to do it. But I do think thinking about just spending some time running through those user journeys in AI search and looking at the work that you've enabled, these partnerships, and how is that impacted? And then I think getting a little bit creative about how we structure the partnerships where maybe it's not just performance. It's not just a CPA. It's a hybrid kind of package of there's a CPA element and then there's a fixed placement element. And maybe also thinking, and this is what one thing we're trying to evangelize with one of our platforms cited by .ai, which is like, maybe there should be a recurring model or some sort of licensing model to this context where the affiliate manager, the partnership manager, let's just call it that, can facilitate that ongoing transaction because that context needs to be updated. These LLMs need freshness. And so taking some risks around that and like coming up with different types of partnership structures that are not just, oh, here's our sign up link. We pay 15%. Please send us sales.
Start getting creative about what you want affiliates to be paid for. Now, that's a big theme that I think a lot of affiliate managers are thinking is how is this going to change what performance is? Because performance has traditionally always been CPA, rev share, or a hybrid thereof, or a fixed fee tenancy. Now we need to start thinking like, how many times can I pay you every time I'm seen? Like a cost per impression almost, basically. And not by the 1,000, but by the one. Like how many times am I being viewed? And I want to talk about a search journey just generally for people that maybe aren't as experienced, because we're talking about quite high level strategy stuff here. For example, I had to find, and I'm going to use my personal shopping experience this weekend over Black Friday. My husband is desperate for some hand warmers because he has to watch my son play rugby on a Sunday in the freezing cold here in England. And he was like, damn, my hands are cold all the time. So me, not being a techie person and being slightly older, I go onto a website here in the UK called which is supposed to be the number one place to go and look for reviews. And I couldn't even find hand warmer reviews on that website. So then I spun out of that website and thought, okay, now which ones do I buy? Because there's every shade, color, type, sort. Some of them can click together. Some of them are separate. Some of them are slimline. Which one do I buy? So I then went on to Google, typed in review sites. So traditional old school SEO, I'm going to give you a list of all of the best hand warmers and why. Then I went to a YouTube video and watched a guy talk about the one that I liked the look of and what he thought it was like for outdoors. Then I went on to ChatGPT and said, tell me the best ones for this year. And then from all of that, I ended up buying one that hadn't appeared in any of those things because Amazon told me it was their best seller. That is what a user journey shopping situation is right now. And not all of those places were being fueled by affiliate links. So the zero click is also very interesting to me because just before Black Friday, PayPal kind of connected with Perplexity. It was big news. How does that impact what's happening with AEO and SEO and GEO and everything else that we're talking about, because now it's becoming like a minefield. It's like, where do I put my money? Which type of partners do I put my money with on performance? So what are your thoughts on all of that?
It's very tricky. I think there's opportunity on the other side of that scariness if you can just push through it a little bit. And I think, that is the zero click. I think that is a real concern. I think if you look at these partnerships with PayPal, with Etsy, with Walmart, we're starting to see the Shopify, where I think where we're headed is to this single source kind of checkout. You start your user journey, to your point. And maybe I think there will be fragmentation still, people clicking around. But I think what all these chat engines are trying to do is basically say, no. You don't have to do all that. Leanne, come in here. It's warm. We'll do it all for you. And it's kind of like this motion of the old web pushed you out, and this new chat is pulling it in. It's centralizing it. It's doing that, clicking open all those tabs. That's what I used to do.
And you're going to do the obvious, and you're going to go and look for the discount code. But
you'd do all this research. It'd almost be like, thank God for the internet. But at the same time, it was still a process. Versus now, and the degree to which consumers that do use ChatGPT are trusting, that's also another thing. For better or for worse.
My age group probably doesn't trust, because we don't want somebody to tell us what we're looking for. We like to know that we've looked for it ourselves. But a younger age group probably does trust what they're seeing and will just click off and go buy it.
And Sam Altman himself said he was surprised at how few people are clicking the citations. A lot of these chat engines now have started to show their sources, but they're not seeing huge uptick in clicks, because it's like this gap. Once someone trusts the system, they trust the system, and they're not going to need to click out and check everything. Again, each person's different. But once someone gets to that point, and that trust can be lost too. So I think there's kind of an opportunity on both sides there. Once we're headed towards this fewer click, I don't want to say zero click, but I think click constrained future is something to think about, is how do we navigate that? And I do think that's where the creative kind of partnerships come in. And I don't know what it's going to look like. I do think there's probably some sort of attribution system that develops where it's how many citations, or it's a combination of citations and relationship to context. There's a lot of these AI visibility platforms like Peak, Profound, Scrunch. They're all trying to put their arms around this and do correlation and sentiment analysis.
I just think that we're too early on. We don't actually have the answers. And if you came to this podcast wanting the answers, the truth is nobody has them. And this is what we're trying to say, is that this is very much new, uncharted territory that you are going to have to rely on your own data to navigate. And I wonder how many affiliate managers, because I know I'm looking at this stuff, how many affiliate managers are out there looking at their customer journeys, like their funnel of how their customers are finding them, and comparing that month to actually go, if last month 60% of our traffic came through Google, and this month 40% of our traffic came through Google, where are the other 20% heading? Like, where are they fragmented to? And do we have visibility in that search journey? Because as you heard, my search journey was completely different. And then eventually I just bought something on Amazon because I knew I would get it by Sunday, and it was on the Black Friday sale. That's what literally got me to buy this product.
One thing more actionable that I'll take away, one thing that we're doing, we're actually partnering with affiliate agencies, and we're partnering with other people in the performance marketing space, because to represent this fragmentation, I think it requires breaking down these barriers and working together. We have partnerships with different affiliate agencies. They're doing their thing, we're doing our thing. We're showing the value that we're providing to each other. We still generate clicks from our YouTube content, but we're optimizing our North Star is AI visibility. But we do have the byproduct is clicks. And on the same side for affiliate, the byproduct is AI visibility of the click-based work that they're doing. And so we can help each other tell that story. So I think those partnerships are going to be key. And looking at a Venn diagram, if it was a coin toss and you could do a placement in Forbes or Good Housekeeping, then go look at the AI impact and say, okay, which one has more? It's kind of like it can help you steer you in that direction of, oh, maybe I'm going to prioritize these placements because they provide value in these AI journeys to a greater extent than ours. And so that's another way to maybe one way to start prioritizing some of these editorial placements or partnerships or even influencers who have an outsized importance, and they might not even know that they have this really outsized influence in these user journeys. They're not. And that's for the same reason affiliate managers aren't paying attention. Brands aren't really, these influencers are not always paying attention to how they're just complicated. You can't tie it in a bow and show it to someone. You have to, all these user journeys are super fragmented.
So there's a lot to think about, a lot to consider, and a lot of data to be looking at before you start changing where you're spending your budget. But if you had to give somebody just like a blanket piece of advice, because let's not freak anybody out any further, let's rein it back in a little bit.
Yeah.
You're spending money on SEO partners that are doing the traditional kind of reviews, comparisons, all of that type of stuff, which is still valuable and is still required because Google does still have a large chunk of the search. How much of your budget should you be investigating, testing, implementing into these other sectors, Reddit, YouTube, TikTok, because nobody can spread their budgets that thin. So again, start with your audience. Who is your customer? What age group are they? Select backwards from there in terms of which journeys you want to be in front of. But what is the typical thing that you're seeing most clients do, or clients that you work with? What's the strategy that you're recommending to them? Spend 60% in Google still because that's where your database is, and then diversify into 2 or 3 other channels. What's the kind of like basic mean?
Yeah, so we don't always see the entire budget. So I'll just say that, like, they're coming to us because someone said, why are we showing up like this in Reddit? Someone make that change. Or like, we need to have an AI strategy. And so we're often getting those. But what I position it as, I almost think of it like right now is that, what's the insurance policy against the future? Don't spend your entire budget on this. Some brands are, I would say, going all in. They believe it's the future. And so they're making a bet. It's all about risk. And if you're a challenger brand, I think you probably have more appetite for risk right now. I'm thinking about the early winners of SEO in 2003. I would say like we're like 2002, 2003 Google. That's where we are with AI. That early phase where things are starting to take off, but no one has the roadmap exactly. So for challenger brands, I think, putting more chips in there. I think for established brands or brands that are really just super constrained on budget, what is like a little bit that I can dedicate to this, whether it's 10%, 15%, 20% of my budget, to at least build the muscle. We see it all the time. When we work with clients, we see they start working with that, and we see an uptake in referrals from ChatGPT, Perplexity. We can't tell them exactly like which piece of content we're missing that. Yeah, but we can see the correlation between our work and results. But it's just we don't have the same granularity. So we know that we're having impact. But that's a hard way to build a budget is, there's some correlation. We should put X% in. What is a number that is not going to make or break your budget this season, but it's going to be enough to build this competency? Then the map becomes more clear that you're right. You're not starting from a cold start. You're not the last person in your industry to hire an SEO specialist in 2003.
Yeah, sure. Do you think that networks and tracking solutions are going to have to focus on this area and start to be able to track these little incidental impacts? Because it's becoming more fragmented. Really, there is no choice. If you want to start tracking what's happening and what the impact is of your budget, you need to be able to see the data coming back.
100, 1,000, 1,000,000%. Like, I think that is the gap. I think we built this really complicated, intricate, helpful infrastructure for a click-based ecosystem. They need to adapt. And I think, and I'm trying not to offend anyone, I think some of them are a little bit lazy right now about getting ahead of this, because that's what the whole ecosystem needs, infrastructure right now. That's what we're missing. We see where the puck is going.
Yeah, but I think what we're going to see is we're going to see specialist tracking tools to track this, and then eventually a network will just buy that piece of technology. Because if you're a massive network, you've got to be able to service what the general public of your entire network needs and wants, and maybe only 10% of the brands are really demanding this right now because they've got the budget to invest in it. So it'll move with the times, and we really are at the early stage adoption, like you said. Like, we're talking about this now because we see it, and we've lived through multiple iterations of the internet. But new people that with 5 years experience in this industry and not understanding the history of the way that I keep saying it, and I know I sound old, is this is very much like when we moved from desktop to mobile. And if you've lived through that long of the internet and you remember what it was like back then when everybody was talking about nobody's ever going to use a mobile phone to go on the internet. I use my mobile phone all the time now to run my entire business when I'm not in the office. So yeah, this is the same feeling that I'm getting, is that we're at this point where, we're all looking at this, but we don't really know how it's going to pan out. We don't really know what the strategy is. From your perspective, though, if you could just give a little bit of insight, like there are multiple chat platforms. There's Claude, there's ChatGPT, there's Perplexity, there's all of these things.
I feel like, again, early stage of the internet, ask Jeeves. I don't know which one's going to win. I think there's going to be a fierce competition. I think there's going to be some consolidation that happens. I think right now, again, depending on your budget, depending how much scale you have, like I would definitely cut off some of the lower Claude, or again, depending on your industry, if you're maybe more tech code development, like some of those might be more interesting. ChatGPT and Google, if you had to pick two, pick those two, because Google, it's not just Gemini, it's AI overviews, it's AI mode, it's all connected, but like, it's just, and I think Google search becomes whatever Gemini AI mode is. Like it at some point, we're going to stop talking about the distinctions between traditional search and AI search, and they're just going to come together in some sort of, I think Google's disrupting itself. That's kind of what they're doing. So I would pay a lot of attention to Google. I don't discount them. I wouldn't count them out. Oh, they're going to be disrupted like the Yellow Pages was enough. They have a lot of good things going for them, and they've got a lot of capabilities. So Google and ChatGPT, those are the two ones, if you had to pick, I would focus on. And then the third runner-up would be Perplexity. And then I think Copilot. Copilot has a symbiotic relationship with Bing in the same way that Google and Gemini. So if you're optimizing, you can kill multiple birds, right? If you're optimizing for Copilot, you're going to get some Bing search results as well. Like that same piece of content is going to contribute in those spaces. And the reality is we look at the platforms, but we look more at our levers, our sources. What are the things that we can move, and where do those pay dividends? And that's why I say three-legged stool, Reddit, YouTube, and third-party niche editorial blogs. Like those are the sweet spot for us because they have the most impact on the most spaces. And I look at even YouTube as one of my favorite examples of a place to invest money because one, YouTube, you can put affiliate links in your description, by the way. So you can still pay that traditional performance bill there. And then, but it also is a search engine, just like Reddit is a search engine. People type it into the search bar, so you get traffic that way. It's a viral platform like Reddit is as well. It has a network effect. So like things pop in your feed, you're like, how did that happen? I don't know, but that's a source of traffic and visibility. But then it also, YouTube ranks in Google, traditional search. So you're getting a traditional SEO play. This is big packs. They'll show up on the first page of Google, the video pack. It also shows up in Bing. So if you're getting this like traditional search play, but then it's also highly referenced in both Google AI overviews and in ChatGPT. And sometimes at both of those surfaces, the video will pop up as the call to action. It'll be like, here's an AI summary. Here's a video that talks about it more. That is position 0 effectively. And so I think YouTube, if you had to place a bet on one thing to influence most of these sources, I would put a bet into YouTube, closely followed by Reddit and some of these third-party blogs, which I think, again, AI is hungry. It needs protein. Just when you disincentivize the open web from producing it organically through CPA and display ad clicks and all that, like that ecosystem is fragmented. And niche editorial, some of those really small publishers are providing context in ChatGPT, for example, that is way more influence than they provided traditionally in Google organic search. So there's little arbitrages to look at for each of those platforms, but I do look at the Venn diagram, what pays the most. And that's why we do Reddit and YouTube, because those things pay dividends across many of these different AI surfaces and traditional surfaces.
Okay. I got one more question before we wrap this up, because that was really good. It's actually given me some ideas for my own business. Like I want to go and do more YouTube videos now. But that is a good thing to say, is like you can't be everywhere all at once, but if you can be in one place, get on YouTube, because it's going to help you in other places as well. From an authority and trust layer, because content is always king. And what does genuine authority content look like in the AI landscape? Does this mean a new era of affiliate content is over? What do publishers now? Because we've spoken from a strategic perspective of what affiliate managers need to do, but just let's talk about it from a publisher's perspective. If you were a publisher starting out, maybe 1 or 2 years into your business, looking at all of this going, geez, where do I go from here? What would your best piece of advice be for those niche publishers?
Yeah, so it's an interesting little dilemma that we're in, because what I believe is a future, high quality content. So what we do on our agency side, we invest in creators and we create the unboxing. We do the frontline content that I believe is imperative for AI. Original content, stuff that moves the needle above and beyond regurgitating what's already out there. Anything that you can provide your own context, your personal experience, that is what AI is hungry for. And that's what's going to ultimately should command the most value. We have to figure out what that value chain looks like, but I think directionally that's where to go. But at the same time, ChatGPT, for example, and all these AI services, it's like we've gone back 10 years in terms of what works. So we're seeing, for example, blogs that have been de-indexed by Google for spam that are working for ChatGPT right now. So while I say these two things, I think what's going to happen is just like Google had their web spam team, Matt Cutts, what's he saying, or John Miller, like What do they think? They just issued an update and wrecked everyone's life or whatever. I think they're going to ChatGPT, they're going to invest in that tragedy of the comments. Who is policing the open web? Who is responsible for this? Because everyone can let it slide for a while, but then there's going to be a problem there, because we're seeing this where brands are spitting out AI content. They're feeding AI content to AI engines, and it's working for a short period of time. It's working too well, but I don't think it's going to work long term. We're already starting to see some of those impacts. So I say two of these things are true at the same time. I directly invest in the original content. That's where you're going to stand out. Don't try to get ahead of the AI engines by feeding them AI. It works. And maybe you can do an experiment if you're a big brand or big publisher to create some AI content.
While we're talking, I typed into ChatGPT, one of the best affiliate news sites online. And guess who came up first?
You?
Afterverse, and then Hello Partner, then Influencer Marketing Hub, AM Navigator, and Tap Affiliate Blog. But you see, the person in me goes, now, is that really real? Is that true? And you should be questioning all of that. This is what my GPT has said, your GPT. And in fact, why don't you just test it quickly? Type in one of the best online news sites for affiliate marketing and see what comes up on yours, just for the giggles of it while we're on this podcast. Because you need to think about that too. You need to think about the context of what your consumer is searching about and for.
Yeah, so I see this. So then again, speaks to the fragmented nature. I have an AI overview in Google, breaks it down, and kind of almost creates a little listicle. It says, Hello Partner, AffDaily, AffLift, AffRoom, the Affiliate Summit Blog, Neil Patel, and Advertise. I don't see...
That's because you are in the US and I'm in the UK.
And then you see that they have different sources on the right. And then you go down and there's some overlap in the organic rankings, but some ones that are not present.
So in Google, with your IP, let's just test this hypothesis. Type in affiliate marketing news and see what comes in the actual Google search results. Let's just do it live.
Yeah, Affiverse is number one. In Google Organic, I don't have an AI overview.
There you go. So good content, quality content is what actually makes you stand out, and not just content that's regurgitated, but content that is contextualized and actually explains thought processes, thought leadership, reasons why. It cannot just be a comparison of products anymore. AI does that for you, and that's not good enough. So we need to see publishers creating contextualized content that helps brands stand out, that answers questions that people have, that brings a second perspective, another lens, whatever it is. And you actually said that. You said it cannot be just straight up, this is what this pen is. It needs to be, what about this pen is good for me?
Yeah, what was your experience? Who's going to do the unboxing videos? AI can't do that. Who's going to test them? Who's going to put the shoe on the foot? So it's like that frontline research. That's the last mile. That's, I think, going to be incredibly important.
This has been amazing because there's so much that we need to learn still. So if you thought that you know everything you thought you knew about search and affiliate, guess what, buddy? You need to open up that book and start writing notes again. Ewan, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on this podcast. I am super keen to see what happens next in this phase that we're moving into. I think my main message to everybody listening is you've heard a lot here today. Take it, integrate it, think about it, ask questions about it, question everything that you're seeing on AI, because it does hallucinate in some circumstances. And see what works for you. Even if it's a 5% budget, I think you have to start testing. You have to start looking at how does this impact the rest of my strategy. But don't be crazy and move 60% of your budget just because you want to be an early adopter. That's not necessarily the right strategy for your business. Lovely to have you here. Thank you so much for sharing all of your insights and wonderful knowledge. We really appreciate it. And have a great week.
Thanks, Liam. Appreciate it.
Join thousands of digital marketers who trust Affiverse for the latest trends, tools, and tactics shaping affiliate success. Subscribe for free to our weekly newsletter and get expert insights from industry leaders, exclusive case studies and strategy tips, early bird invites to live and virtual events. You cannot afford to miss this. Don't fall behind. Get the news, strategy, and trends that keep your affiliate game sharp. Sign up now at affiversemedia.com and stay connected, informed, and ahead. Thanks for tuning in to the Affiliate Marketing Podcast, your insider edge to all things affiliate.